Welcome to Wool Meets World. This is episode 7 of the Wool Meets World podcast, and I am Marcy. I'm a knitter, I'm a sewist, I'm a general all-around crafting enthusiast. You probably don't know me because I am not an influencer of any kind, and I don't sell yarn or design patterns or anything. I am just someone that loves making things, and I love sharing what I make here on YouTube. So here I am sitting down to record this podcast episode. It has been a while since I've actually recorded anything. I had a little bit of a hectic end to 2024 and a troubling start to 2025, to put it mildly. So I just needed to recharge, but I'm feeling so much better now. I am rested, I am ready to go to talk all things knitting. I have my current projects, of course. I'm going to talk about my spring plans and all the books that I'm just devouring for the first quarter of this year. So settle in with a project, grab something to drink. I have my mug of tea here, and let's just dive into some fun projects. Let me start with the sweater that I am wearing. This is the Home Sweater V-neck by Caidree. I think the last time I talked about this on this podcast, I was rushing to finish it before Rhinebeck, and I did finish it. I was able to wear it even though it was boiling this past October at the show. I sucked it up. I wore my new piece because I had just finished it days before, and I wanted to wear it even though I was sweating. Excuse me for looking over. I have my notes right here to just remind me of everything that's going on with this sweater. It is a top-down V-neck. It's got pretty wide sleeves here, very little tapering off to the wrist, and then it has a high-low hem. And I used Explorer Knits Boucle base, and it is the colorway to The Stars Who Listen. And fast forward just 1 second to the book segment. I have been reading the ACOTAR series, finally, and I actually get the color name now. I was knitting this whole time, saying To the Stars Who Listen is the colorway. Had no idea what that was, but now I know, which is great. Okay, back to the knitting for a little bit. We'll get to books later. Let's see. I love the sweater. I think it's great. I think the colorway is gorgeous. It's this kind of dark green with maybe a little bit of blue in it. I don't know. I never know how to describe colors, but I just love it. I've been wearing this all winter because it is so freaking cozy. The boucle just adds something really nice to the sweater, and I just love it. I love the sweater. I love wearing it. Boucle is not my favorite. I think I've said this before. I like to read my stitches, and you just cannot read your knitting when you're working with boucle. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that I made this sweater. Would I do it again? No, definitely not. Okay, the other thing that's been keeping me cozy all winter long, because it's been quite cold here in the Northeast, is this lovely shawl, and this is the Brioche Adventure Shawl by Jonathan Tollow, and it is just a bunch of brioche and garter stitch panels, and you just keep knitting and knitting and knitting until you get this really nice long shawl. I use the Coast to Coast Yarn Company's Fantasy Coffee House collection, which is the 2023 Advent, and it was a exclusively brown fade, 20 colors, and I forget, it might have come with a full skein as well. I did not use the full skein. I just used all the mini skeins, and I did not use them in order of the actual Advent. So I didn't go 1, 2, 3. I think that brioche kind of looks a little bit better when you have some contrast to it, and it's just impossible to do that when you're working with faded skeins, because the color changes are so minute, especially in a 20 skein fade. So I just mixed it up a little bit while still keeping the same tonal changes in this brown fade. And this sweater is so freaking cozy. I love the way it turned out. I'll put it on in a sec, but you won't be able to hear my microphone. You'll probably get weird squishy microphone noise. So this is another one of Jonathan Tollow's patterns. This is the Tollow hat. I made this, and I'll put down below in the description what episode I talked about this in the podcast. But I wanted something that would not match, but coordinate a little bit. And you can see that it has some of the same browns, and then definitely, you know, that tonal variegation. So I've been wearing these two things like all winter long, and I love it. And this is so cozy without adding like a ton of bulk, like the way, you know, when you tie like a triangle shaped shawl like around your neck, you get that bulk like at the back of your head. Don't get that with this. So let me show you how it looks. You can use it as a hood, which I've done several times in the rain, and excuse any microphone noise while I just wrap this around. Yeah, love it. I've just been wearing this every day, and it is so nice and cozy. So that's kind of really what I've been able to finish lately. I did finish just a basic pair of socks. No need to really get into that here. There was nothing to that. Yeah, that's what I finished. Let me take you through a whole bunch of works in progress. So the first project that I cast on in 2025, I chose to make it a knit vest. This is the Avenue vest, and it is the V-neck version, and it is by Tori Yu. And it is knit from the top down, starting at the shoulders. You work the shoulders flat, and then you keep going flat down the front and back until you get to connecting the underarms, and then the body is knit in the round. And I love the way this has come out so far, but I have not finished it yet because of two problems that I have completely caused myself. But before we get into that, let me just give you the pattern particulars. Again, excuse me for looking off to the side at my computer here. The pattern was published fairly recently in December of 2024, and it's got two versions. It's got the V-neck, which I've done right here, and it has a crew neck. And as I said, it's top down, knit in the round after you get to the armholes. The armholes are really deep here, which is great for making this a layering piece, which I like. The V-neck I found to be a little bit deep as well, but I just picked up less stitches along the neckline to not have it be as plungy. I just wanted it to be, the depth of the neckline to be a little bit shorter, so that was just a really easy fix. I don't think it's too plungy in general, just for me, I wanted it to be a little bit shorter, so that was very helpful just to pick up slightly less around the neckline to make that a little bit shorter for me. The pattern is made for worsted weight yarn, and it has 9 sizes. It's very size inclusive. It goes, the finished measurements at the bust go from 34 inches to 66 inches. So as I said, this is a worsted weight pattern written for worsted weight yarn. The yarn that I'm using is technically worsted weight, but it didn't feel very worsted weight to me, so I had to change needle sizes here. The yarn is Cloverbrook Farms, and it is a 50% alpaca llama blend and then 50% Shetland wool. And this yarn is so delightful. I got this during Rhinebeck weekend this past October, not at the Sheep and Wool Festival itself, but on an excursion that my family and I went to before actually making up to the town of Rhinebeck itself. We stopped off at Cloverbrook Farm, which is in Hyde Park, New York. Right, I want to say that's right, Hyde Park, New York. And we did this really fun small group experience where we got to walk a llama and or an alpaca, in our case, because there were 4 of us. So we actually did a 1-mile hike around the property of the farm, walking a animal with us. And it was really great. The hike was very easy. Like I said, it was quite warm during Rhinebeck, so it was a little bit windy once you got kind of into the open pastures, but with the sun beating down on you, it was a really nice day for a walk, and it was very easy. It was, I mean, for me, I'm a moderately fit person. My 89-year-old grandma was with us, so if you're okay with walking a wooded path with a mild steep hill, I would definitely recommend this walk. So after the walk, we got to go and visit the farm store, and all of the fiber in there comes from the animals that are raised on the farm, and I believe it's milled off site, but all the fiber is actually raised there on the farm. And what I got was a 2-ply worsted, and I think it comes in a couple of yardages. The one that I got was a 250 yards per skein, and the label suggests that it is worsted weight, but when I knit it up in my swatch with size 8 needles, which is what the pattern calls for, it just wasn't feeling like worsted weight to me. So I used one of those like gauges where you wrap and you measure the wraps per inch, and I got, I think, 13 wraps per inch. So according to that gauge, it was a bit more of a DK weight pattern. So my preferred needles for DK weight are size 6 needles, so I just switched to size 6 needles, redid my swatch, and I thought the fabric just came out beautifully. So with kind of a thinner yarn, I wasn't getting the same gauge as Tori was in her design of the pattern, so I just did a little math, and I calculated that with my gauge of 5 stitches per inch, I needed to do a size 5, and I think in the pattern a size 5 is actually 50 inches with Tori's gauge. At my gauge, it would give me a bust size of about 45 inches, so that is going to be about a 7-inch bit of positive ease for me. So it's not going to be form-fitting, it's going to be quite loose, and I think it's going to be really nice as a layering piece. The problems. Okay, so when I first saw the yarn, I was not planning to make the Avenue vest. It hadn't even come out yet. I did know what I wanted to do, but it was not a vest. When I saw the Avenue vest, I knew I had to make it in this yarn. It is soft, it is a little bit a heathered gray, and it's got this really gorgeous little halo from the alpaca llama of the blend. I knew that I had to have it, and I think a heathered gray vest as a layering piece is just kind of like the perfect basic, so I had to have it. However, problem 1, I only got 2 skeins, so I did not have enough yarn. I had to order some more online. Luckily, they have a website, and Andrea sent me the yarn pretty quickly. It came with a little bar of soap, which was very sweet. She gifted that to me. And I had bought soap at the farm back in October. Love it, would highly recommend. It is really delightful smelling and great on the skin. Problem two is not so easily solved. This is a natural fiber, so it's not dyed at all. This is the natural color, which means that there is a little bit of color variation, and me living dangerously, I don't really alternate my skeins all that much. It doesn't usually bother me, but I didn't notice, I think maybe you can see it better on the back. Oh yeah, you could definitely see it. I didn't notice this little band of color variation right there. I did not notice that while I was knitting. So I have just been knitting away, and I have this band of color variation where I switch skeins, and it's just not flattering. When you try it on, it might not bother some people, but when you try it on, it looks like maybe you can see my sports bra through the thing, or you can just see that line there, and I don't know how I didn't catch this when I first added the second skinny yarn. I just don't know. So I am gonna have to rip this back, and you can see kind of how far I was there. I'm gonna have to rip this back and either cut out this kind of strip of variation there, or I am just gonna have to, mix, alternate skeins here. So I've given this a very small break because I was mad. I was mad about it. I decided to move on to something else, but I think I'm finally ready to finish this because it really is a gorgeous pattern, and it's very well written. I love the size inclusivity of it, and I love that you get 2 necklines in one pattern. It's just really nicely written, and when I tried this on, it fit great. The only thing that I wasn't happy about was that little bit of variation in the skein. And before I move on, I just want to point out my gorgeous little project bag here that I've been using for this. This project bag, and I don't know if you can see the pattern, so it is a pattern based on the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, excuse me, the Empyrean series from Rebecca Yarros. I am such a big fan, and this bag is from Ginger Snap, and it came with, I didn't actually buy it directly from them, it came with like a little box that Fantasy Fiber Yarn Company, excuse me, put out for New Year's Day. I think it was like a New Year's Eve or New Year's Day box. I didn't get the full box because I already had 2 boxes of Advent yarn, and I just couldn't force myself to get another one. But I did buy the yarn and then the project bag, and I just want to show you this skein. So again, this was inspired by Fourth Wing and ended up being released right in time for Onyx Storm to come out, the 3rd book in the series. The colorway is I'm No One's Miniature and Lightning Builder, and it is on the Enemies to Lovers sock set. And it came with this cute little charm. Let me see, the charm is black. The yarn is black. It came with this cute little charm. And the yarn is black, but it has some it's like grayish, but it has some variation. I don't know if you can see it. The variation is so slight. It's got some like brown and green variation to it with like a little bit of a silver, so it's not black. And so these 2 came, and it was my New Year's Day gift to myself. And then I just want to point out a fun little project that I did. Is it still attached here? I made myself a Fourth Wing inspired charm to go along with the bag. And I have that sitting there on my project. And I also turn those into earrings, and my mom, my aunt, and I were lucky enough to get tickets to the Onyx Storm book tour, so I wore these on the book tour. I brought this project in my bag with me, and it was just a fun time had by all before the dreaded color mistake here. The second project that I've been working on that I have in my little field bag is the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. And it seems that February 2025 is my month to experience extremely popular things like the Shift Cowl. This pattern has been out for a while. I think it came out, in March 2018. It's got a whopping 15,000 projects on Ravelry. And this is, again, my first time making it. And it is my first time working with this sort of dyed-in-the-wool type yarn, for lack of knowledge on what else to actually call it. So I have these 3 skeins that I'm using to make this shawl, and this is from Junction Fiber Mill, and I actually got these also in October before I went to Rhinebeck. I went on a really awesome leaf peeping trip to New Hampshire and Vermont, and here there is a lovely little store what is the store called? Excuse me. It's called the Woolly Thistle, and it's right on the border. It's in Vermont, I think, but it's right on the border with New Hampshire, or maybe it's in New Hampshire. It's right there on the border, and it is actually very close to the yarn company, Junction Fiber Company, and they, I think, mill their own Junction Fiber Mill, and they actually mill their own yarn there and then sell it at the store like a mile away. So the colors that I am using, let me see, this is Alpenglow, and it's blue with this kind of peach variation to it, and I think some purples come out as you keep going in the colorway there. The second color I'm using is called Zinnia, and I had already cut this one, so this is not attached. And it's got more of that peach with some oranges and then more purple. So these two colors are kind of blending together in the shawl. And then the third one I got is Leaves in the Brook, which is just a mix of these different types of yellows and maybe a little bit of green there coming out in the center eventually. And this is what I've got so far. I think these are really nice spring colors, and I am knitting on this while I am on the train to work, and I think it is going to be a really nice spring shawl, and I'm finally experiencing making this cowl pattern, like years later, after everyone's already done it a million times, 15,000 times. Third project that I have is a cardigan. And this one is super springy, and this is a really good case of the fiber kind of dictating the project, kind of inspiring the project. And I will tell you the story. So if you've ever seen a video of mine, any video, you'll know that I am obsessed with Woolberry Fiber Company. So this is what the main colorway is. This is Woolberry Fiber Company, the Berry Merino base, which is 100% superwash, and the colorway is Ode to Valentine, and this is probably my very, very favorite colorway, most favorite colorway that I've ever seen from Woolberry Fiber Co. I think it was originally released as the February, kind of like Valentine's Day, February color of the month in her Woolberry collective, where you have to be a member and you get yarn every month. And I got one skein of it, not thinking that I would love it so much. I made a pair of socks, and then I was just waiting and praying that Bethany and team would re-release the colorway, and bam, they released it again as part of like the February's Rewind colorway, where they released old colors for their Woolberry Rewind. And I got a sweater quantity of it, I think last February, pretty sure. Fast forward, I don't know how many months later, I am trying to figure out what to make with this yarn. I have no idea what I'm gonna make with it yet. I got a random sweater quantity and didn't know what I was gonna make. So then I found this gorgeous, gorgeous pattern. It's called the Claude Cardigan. I knew that I needed to make the cardigan with this yarn. I tracked down the pattern, and problem, it is written for super bulky weight yarn. I happen to get my yarn from Woolberry Fiber Co. in the fingering weight base. Ode to Valentine, it's fingering weight, that's not gonna work. So I did the next best thing. I took that inspiration from the Claude Cardigan and I tried to find a similar pattern in worsted weight that would give me the same feel. And enter Jacqueline C. Slack and the Bandit cardigan. And it's a really super playful Cardi. It was published in October 2020, and it is knit back and forth because it is a cardigan. It's just knit flat, and you start from the top, obviously, separate for the sleeves, and then keep on going. So I decided to mimic the Claude pattern and do a contrast color for this really sweet little button band here. Let's see. You can see it's got like a little bit of a twisted rib on the button band. And it has a fold over hem at the top. I think that pattern just called for a stockinette stitch fold over hem, and I actually made mine a ribbed fold over hem. And the pattern has these balloon sleeves, and it's like a seamless yoke and has these balloon sleeves. It features a cropped version and a full length version. I think I'm going with the cropped version, and I just adore it. I love the way it's coming out. It's so springy, and I think it's just gonna be super, super cute. And this I started maybe right at the beginning of February, and I am just, you know, for fingering weight yarn, I'm getting pretty far, because this has kind of been my main thing when I'm at home and just watching TV and stuff. The pattern is actually written for sport weight yarn. I have fingering weight yarn, and I was able to just adapt that way easier, you know, sport weight to fingering weight than like super bulky to fingering weight. That just was not gonna work. But a sport weight pattern, easy to do some basic math, and I am loving it. So I am doing, I believe, a size 5 also in this pattern. That would give a 52 inch bust if I was using sport weight yarn, but since I'm using fingering weight, this is going to give me a 46 inch bust. So it's also going to have some positive ease to it. So those are kind of the 3 main projects that I'm rotating, and I am looking forward to doing some more sewing projects, and let me share that in my spring plans. Something I try to do is to kind of plan my projects and try to knit them, especially knitting, but also sewing. I try to work on my projects a season ahead. So it is winter right now. I can say that for at least a little over 10 more days. It is winter right now. So I am working on my projects for spring. And then when spring hits in a couple months, I will be then working on my projects for summer and so on. So I really try to do this all the time. I'm not always successful because, you know, things catch my eye and I just want to knit them right away. But to help me out this year, I decided to do a little spring-summer mood board to try to give me some extra inspiration and motivation for completing some of the projects that I want to complete. And I'm just going to take my laptop here and I am going to just look along so that I can kind of explain what I did. So I used a really great app called Milanote, which I really love for just kind of like free-flowing charts and making collages and stuff like that. So I used Milanote to create a spring-summer project plan, and I had such a blast kind of just pulling all these different images. I had some projects in mind. I went and I kind of looked through some inspiration on Pinterest and Instagram, and then pulled different images that kind of spoke to me and kind of reminded me of the materials or the different like vibes that I was going for. And it almost made it feel like a sort of fashion collection, which is quite fun. And I think that it's really nice to go back and look at this. So particularly when I'm ready for the next pattern, I might get distracted with something else new that's come out. And I feel like having this visual tool to remind me what my goals are for this particular spring-summer season is going to be really great and hopefully helpful. I don't know how many of these projects I'm actually going to get to, but we'll see. So after the bandit cardigan I'm doing, I want to try to do another cardigan in the Elton cardigan, and then I want to do the Moon Crush tank finally, which I've been wanting to do for a while now. And then I have 4 sewing projects that I want to do. I haven't started any of them yet, but I really like to do a skirt and a shirt dress. And I have fabric for that already. And then I'm looking to do maybe like a beach/pool tote for the summer. And then I have been kind of playing around with upcycling old jeans of mine. So I have another pair that have yet to take apart. So I really want to take apart that pair of jeans and try to make a denim vest out of them, but I need patterns for those. I don't have those yet, but that is just sort of my inspiration for spring and summer, and I am really looking forward to seeing if this helps me stay motivated and if I could actually kind of, get some of these projects done in a timely fashion. So that is all I have to say about knitting and sewing and all my different crafts that I'm doing. Let's just wrap this up with a little discussion about books. So it is mid-March and I have just been tearing through some audiobooks and then really enjoying reading at night with a physical book. So the first book that I finished for the year is Onyx Storm, and that is by Rebecca Yarros. This is the third one in the Empyrean series, and it was released January 21st, 2025. And yes, I got up super early. I went to Target. I got the Target special edition, which I was not expecting that to be as crazy as it was. Let me tell you, it was crazy. I hopefully won't torture myself next time another book in the series is released and do that again. I'll just maybe get it delivered to myself. But it's got these gorgeous little splayed edges. It's got a fun cover. It has like a little bookmark to it, and then it has some original artwork inside, which is fun. I'm not going to say too much about this book because it is so new. I don't want to give any spoilers away. Maybe one day I'm just going to do like a separate little like short video on how I feel about the Empyrean series. If you've seen this podcast before, you know that I'm obsessed. Clearly I have the earrings and the project bag to go with it. Obsessed with this series. 6,000 stars. Love the book. I'm not going to say any more about that. The second book that I read, a physical book, was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And that is a memoir, and it is written by Jeanette, who was this child actress. She appeared on the Nickelodeon show iCarly. I have not seen it. I was probably a little bit too old to be watching Nickelodeon at that point in my life. But I kind of knew what the show was, and I knew that she was an actress on it. And I probably would not have picked up this book. It's a memoir. Not that I don't read memoirs, but I just wouldn't have picked up a book like this. But it was the February pick for the Love and Stitches book club. My friend Victoria picked it, and it was such a fabulous read. It was really... It's a tough subject matter. I have to say, trigger warning for anybody who's sensitive to self-harm and eating disorders, and then to death and disease. It is a tough subject matter, horrible subject matter, but Jeanette's writing is so fresh and blunt and just so funny, and you wouldn't think that it would be funny because of the subject matter, but I think she's probably gotten to a place where she can look back on her early life and laugh at it, which is really wonderful to know. But it just follows Jeanette's relationship with her abusive mother and then being pushed into acting, which in many cases, like Jeanette's, is just rife with abuse for these child actors. So it was a really heartbreaking book, but one that I just could not put down. And I think Jeanette voices the audiobook as well. So I know that a lot of people in my book club at least enjoyed that part of it. But it was just A+, love the book, really great read, and very interesting to see how the relationship with Jeanette and her mother kind of played out and where she is now as an adult with it. So I really enjoyed that one. And then the third book that I have read physically, I'm actually currently in the middle of it right now, and it is The House of Eve by Sadika Johnson. And this book I'm halfway through, and I cannot wait to get to the end of this book. It is a historical, I don't want to say it's a historical romance, it's a historical fiction with a little bit of romantic element. It follows these two young women, Ruby and Eleanor, through 1950s Philadelphia and DC, and it's so well written. It was really, without having been alive in the 1950s, I think the writing style just feels authentic, and you know, the manner of speech, the depictions of Black society in Philadelphia and DC just like really transport you there. And then so far the storyline is just beautiful. It's moving. It follows these two young Black women, and they are trying to make it in a world that just kind of holds them in contempt because they're Black, because they're poor, and because they're women. And it's a really beautiful examination of young adulthood and what it means to be a mother, and just sort of all the things that you go through as a young woman, and not having lived in the 1950s, but having been a young woman myself, this book is really resonating with me, with sort of the hopes and dreams that you have and what you're willing to do to get those hopes and dreams to become reality. And it resonates with me so deeply. I'm enjoying this book so much, and I cannot wait to finish it. So those are the books that I'm physically reading at night. I try to read for like an hour a night here. And then when I am making or I'm on the train, I listen to audiobooks. And the big thing that I have listened to this month, I think I started maybe at the beginning of February and it's mid-March, I'm almost done, is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. And I mean, apparently I've been living under a rock for all these years because I had yet to read them. Again, this is my month for coming out from under my rock and experiencing very popular things that I have not yet experienced myself. I am hours, like 2 hours away from finishing A Court of Silver Flames, and I don't know, I have mixed feelings about the series. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. Haven't gotten too much into the fandom because I didn't want to be spoiled more than I already was with some plot points that I've just already seen on Book Talk, but I don't know. Don't get me wrong, it's good. It's very highly addictive. You kind of want to know what happens for sure. And I think that Thorns and Roses, followed by Mist and Fury, kind of was doing something really unique in the way the relationships were presented to you. Did I really like Wings and Ruin, the third one? I don't know. I thought the beginning portion was good. I was kind of bored by the rest. I didn't feel like I really needed to progress in the story. And I think this is even more of an unpopular opinion, but I actually liked Frost and Starlight. I think people maybe didn't like that one as much, that little novella as much. Was it necessary? No, it was not necessary. The storyline is kind of continuing on from the third one. It's kind of boring. But was it fluffy and cute and everything I'm all about, especially around like a winter holiday? Yes, it was. That's probably why I liked it. It like felt like kind of, I mean, it was by Sarah J. Maas, but it kind of felt like a holiday like fan fiction for this series, which, I don't know, I liked the fluff of that. And now I'm on to Silver Flames. Like I said, I haven't finished it yet, but I saw this meme that kind of describes how I feel about the book. It was a meme basically saying like, oh, we have questions for Sarah J. Maas, and one of them is, are you okay? Blink twice if you're not. Because, God, do the women in her books just go through it. Like, they have trauma to work through, and no more so than in Silver Flames. And yeah, in Silver Flames, Nessa is just dealing with stuff, and it's not that I hate that in a book. I actually really like that in a book. I mean, pretty much all the books I've been reading since January is women just going through stuff. Yeah, but I don't know. I think Sarah just did way too good of a job on Nesta's characterization, so in that regard, bravo. She's this super unlikable character, I think, and reading an entire book with this very hardened, unlikable character trying to work through her feelings is maybe not the most enjoyable, but I do like it. So overall, I'm liking the series. The first two I ripped through real quick, and I've been going through it, and I'm kind of excited to finish Silver Flames and just move on from the series, because I don't know if I needed all of the other books after 1 and 2. I don't know if I needed them or not, but maybe an unpopular opinion. But that is all the books that I have been reading, that I've been devouring in the first 3 months of this year. And, you know, I have a full-time job, so I would love to stay home and just read all the books. Like, if that could be my job, that would be my job, but it's not. So I think that's definitely a lot of books that I've been going through, and I'm pretty proud of my progress for 2025. I have a goal to read and listen to 50 books this year, so we are going to see if I actually get there. I think I am off to a fantastic start in that regard. So that is it for episode 7 of Wool Meets World. Thank you so much if you have just been with me this entire time, and be sure to check out some of my other podcast episodes, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!